Let's break down the speed of the Vanguard vehicles and compare them to our normal Warzone vehicles. This is part 2 of the Warzone speed and mobility series that I've done so far. I won't be describing my methods and going in as much detail as I did in the first one, so if you want more information on how I run these tests, watch that one. And if you want to know more about the normal Warzone vehicles, watch that video as well, because when I compare them here, it's going to go really fast. So let's get started. We'll be looking at the plane, the Jeep, the truck, and the AA truck. Starting with the plane, it finishes its 200-meter run in 5 seconds, which means its average speed is 40.3 meters per second or 2,419 meters per minute. The Jeep crosses the finish line at 11.2 seconds, which means its average speed is 17.9 meters per second or 1,076.8 meters per minute. The truck comes in at 13.2 seconds, which means its average speed is 15.1 meters per second or 907 meters per minute. Despite the AA truck feeling slower, it also comes in at 13.2 seconds, meaning it has the same speed of 15.1 meters per second or 907 meters per minute. And when we take a look at the times, the difference is pretty big. With only 3 Vanguard vehicles, the Jeep is barely any faster than the truck, and the plane is insanely faster. And when we look at speed in meters per second, it tells you the exact same story. And meters per minute, nothing changes except for the numbers. But here you can definitely see that the Jeep is just barely faster than the truck. And potentially, a better driver in a truck will be able to outrun a Jeep. But if you really want to get around the map, the plane is the way to go. But of course, Warzone isn't about driving in a straight flat line. So let's look at our 1550 meter test. The plane finished in 32 seconds, which means it had an average speed of 48.7 meters per second or 2,924.2 meters per minute. The Jeep had a time of 1 minute and 45 seconds, which means its average speed was 14.7 meters per second or 885.7 meters per minute. And both trucks took 1 minute and 52 seconds to cross the finish line, which means their average speeds were 13.8 meters per second and 828.9 meters per minute. When we look at the time, it confirms what we know. The plane is almost 4 times faster than the trucks. And again, the Jeep is only a tiny bit faster than the trucks as well. And yeah, when we look at it in meters per second, the difference looks huge, but when we look at it in meters per minute, it just shows you how many times you can pretty much go around the map with a plane before the Jeep can even cross it. So short distance versus long distances. What changes? With the plane, the longer and more indirect the route is supposed to be, the faster you're gonna get there. In the last video, we didn't see something like this, but this one actually got a 21% boost in speed, because the plane can keep accelerating and attain some pretty high speeds. The Jeep saw an 18% decrease in speed at longer distances, and that's because the Vanguard vehicles honestly handle really weird. It's hard to explain, but sometimes you just can't really control your vehicle, and trying to make a specifically tight turn is not going to work out for you. And despite it being even worse on the trucks, it only saw a 9% decrease. Seriously, if you think that you need to turn slightly to the left in 5 seconds, you should have already started turning 10 seconds ago. And when we look at the speed comparison in meters per minute, it's exactly the same. And like I said before, you can really see how much better the plane gets the longer the distance is. And for the Jeep, you can see that the longer the distance, the more speed you're going to be losing. Now, we all know that the plane doesn't really control very nicely. And in my tests, I tried to safely land the plane as much as I could. But I just kept exploding, even if I was going extremely slow. If I was moving less than 1 meter per second and my wing scraped a wooden pole, the plane would just explode. So honestly, forget about landing. Just ditch the plane and activate your chute at the very last second. It's gonna add maybe half a second to your time, and with the plane speed, you can afford it. So now let's compare all the movement speeds that I have tested before, even though it's unlikely that they're ever gonna be in the same game. So here we have it, the fastest to slowest in meters per second. And meters per minute pretty much says the exact same thing. And it is truly incomprehensible how much faster the plane is than the helicopter. It was designed for dogfighting, but honestly, if you want the fastest form of transportation, this is gonna be it. If you're playing normal Warzone though, the helicopter will always be the way to go. However, it's interesting that the Jeep is actually behind the SUV, but a lot closer to the Modern Warfare truck. Due to its performance and the 200-meter test, I expected the Jeep to be between the TAC Rover and the ATV, but in long distances, it's just not. The TAC Rover has both great speed and turning radius, something that the Jeep just doesn't have. Unsurprisingly, both Vanguard trucks are almost as good as the Modern Warfare truck. And thankfully, a high mobility weapon is still going to be almost twice as slow as the trucks. So no matter which mode you're in, if you find a truck, it's always going to be an excellent option due to its high health and it being way better than walking. However, for Vanguard, avoid the Jeep. But now that they're going to be adding redeploy balloons, I honestly wonder which is going to be the fastest way to traverse the map. The plane is probably still going to be the best way to go, but if we can zipline to a very high location and just jump off, that may actually win. But until then, I hope this video helped you learn something about Warzone that you didn't know before, or at least confirm your thoughts. But as always, if there's any weapon build or part of the game you want to break down, let me know. You may see it on the next Community Wednesday. Thanks for watching.